Heidi ho.
I'm Dave.
I'm Sean.
And this is Barstools
and Bandtalk.
Well. Tonight, we have almost one half of one of the most popular maritime bands to ever come out of this area. And we're excited to have them here. Sean and I, we didn't really plan anything. We don't really plan much anyhow on Barstools and Bandtalk. We just kind of let it happen organically. It's Sean's favorite word. So anyhow, Sean, I'll let you bring these two gentlemen on because this is a big deal. And we're excited to have them.
Well, we are, and before we go any further, we got to give a big shout out to Marnie because Marnie made this happen. She did the legwork. She suggested one person who we're going to talk to. That person suggested another person. So this is a very first for Barstools and Bandtalk. We have our first
foursome. Say it.
You say a foursome, four-way. It doesn't sound good any way you do it. So we have from the mighty Haywire, Dave Rashed and Marvin Birt.
We're excited. Yeah. There's Marvin.
Hey.
And Dave's shy, maybe.
Uh-oh.
No, maybe we'll get him on. Let's see. He was concerned about his skin tone earlier.
There he is.
He's really light now.
Did you ask me a question?
How you doing, gentlemen?
Hey, good. Nice to see you, man.
You as well.
We were commenting on your skin tone.
Oh yeah, thank you.
How great you look.
Yeah, it's a Macintosh glow.
Well, I'm going to jump right in, guys. It's just thanks so much for coming on to the show. It's a pleasure to have you both here. Everyone's going to know you both primarily from Haywire, but why don't you just give us an idea? Maybe Dave, you started, then Marvin, how you started with music in when you first started, I guess, like from the beginning.
Well, wow, the beginning. I remember being. My gosh, back when I was like 2 or 3 years old, playing the Arabic drum. My dad used to have a drum at the house, and I just started playing along with the music that was playing around. And I started taking guitar lessons when I was 5 years old, and I just loved music from early on. And it was just I could spend all my time playing music and practicing guitar and drums and what have you. And that was the very beginning. So it was just something that I always did. I thought everybody just does that. So that's what I did.
I saw a friend of mine when I was probably about 12. I saw a friend of mine play Smoke on the Water on an electric guitar, and I almost died.
Well, I will tell you.
What?
I'll tell you guys, it was actually John Lord's, would have been John Lord's 71st birthday today. I was just reading that on Twitter. So.
Wow, okay.
Fitting. Anyway, it's like we rehearsed this.
Anyway, so I saw a friend of mine play Smoke on the Water electric guitar, and I was just like, wow. He showed me that little 2-finger bar chord to play Smoke on the Water, and all went from there.
Wow.
So Dave and I were both guys that actually attended that Q104 homegrown concert at the Forum. You guys probably remember it.
Very
well. Wasn't
well.
yesterday.
Yeah.
But it was what a show. There was 7 or 8 bands on the bill. I think you guys closed it. You guys won it. What do you remember about that? Because that was probably one of the very first shows I went to that I saw guys playing live.
Really, the Q104 homegrown contest, that was something that our manager submitted us in, and we were on PEI, and that was before the internet and all that kind of stuff. So it was just this thing that he submitted us for, and we didn't really think too much more out of it. We were playing, doing gigs, and all of a sudden we went over to do this gig, and never thought we had a chance to actually win it and do well in it. And it was quite something. That was really the beginning of things taking off for the band.
Yeah, because we were still like a bar band, man. We were on the road 300 days a year, and that was just another thing. It was like, we got a gig and we're doing this. So, but it was kind of we kind of knew we had a little something though, because at that time our song was Bad Bad Boy. Was that for that show?
No, that was before that.
Was before that? Okay. Yeah, but I think we played it at the show. Okay, I can't remember. Jeez, memory's going. Anyway, yeah, but we were like a bar band playing everywhere in the Maritimes, Newfoundland, everywhere. That was just another gig. We put it together, that's basically at the beginning of our writing career. We started writing songs.
So, okay, let's take it back to the beginning. So, was Haywire your first professional band, guys, or had you been in other bands before then? I'm not really sure how Haywire started.
We Haywire formed in 1981. Basically, it was I think it was August. We pulled the band together. September, October, we started doing some gigs in Charlottetown, PEI, and then our first gig was at the Jolly Sixpence in Halifax in January. We missed the first gig because of a snowstorm. We couldn't catch the boat and we couldn't leave the island. But no, Haywire was formed basically to make a band that would go and travel the Maritimes, and that was our main goal forming the band.
Yeah, because we all played in different bands in Charlottetown, and everybody was a whole kind of a group of us wanted to go on the road, and a lot of people, a lot of local musicians can't, they get jobs and all that stuff. So anyway, so we all kind of met one night, and just the right amount of us met one night, and happened to be the 5 guys in Haywire, and we said, hey, we're sitting around a table, we can all go on the road. So in one night we broke up 3 bands, formed Haywire, and then we were on the road shortly after, like maybe a year after that or so. Yeah.
Wow. That sounds like a Hazen Horseman story right there, but we're not going to go there. Did I imagine, Marvin, that you might have did a stint in Snake Eye? Was that something that somebody told me before?
Yeah, that was before Haywire. Yeah, that was before Haywire.
And you were that was you probably would have been what, 11 years old when that happened?
I think I was probably 17.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I was doing the club circuit when I was kind of 16.
So I'm a drummer, I'm not a guitar player, but a lot of guitar players that saw you play then and then saw you play with Haywire said there was a metamorphosis of Marvin Birt. He was one way when he first started, and then when you got into Haywire, obviously became more of a songwriter, but your style became obviously what everybody knows. But what is is that true? B, what attributed to that?
Pretty much probably all the gigging in the Maritimes, and when you get home after the show, there's nothing on TV. So I basically take my guitar and I played till daylight every day for pretty much every day on the road. That's what I do. I just home, we do the gig, back to the hotel, grab the guitar, play till daylight. And I used to do that for years. I wrote and play guitar, just there's nothing else to do.
Yeah. And again, the tunes, because and if I'm off base on this, and I'm going to talk about Haywire, your guys' tunes it reminded me of Van Halen in a sense that you guys could all play, but the tunes were just, everybody kind of got the shine in a song, but it was a song of 5 guys that all kind of had their part, and it just all came together and just sounded so great.
Well, there got to be a point where we kind of realized it's like, well, I know for myself anyway, that there were a lot of really great guitar players, right? And being a great guitar player is only going to get you so far. So we needed songs, and we needed to learn how to write songs. So myself and Dave, the 2 of us, separately at first, and then we kind of got together and started writing, but we just pretty much concentrated on writing songs and trying to figure out how to write songs. And we wrote a lot of really bad ones too. You never heard those ones. But that was kind of like, it was just that we worked like crazy at it. Like we spent a lot of time writing. We wrote a lot of bad songs, So.
Well, and that's really the only way to do it. You got to write a bunch of bad ones to get to a couple of good ones, and that's kind of that's going to help you. I guess I have a question, because I'm kind of, we never usually follow a time frame, but we're going from 81 to 84 when the Q4 homegrown contest comes. You're playing around a lot between 81 and 83. I guess to me the most impressive part about Haywire now, and I could be wrong, but you've only had one member change. Am I right?
That's right. Yeah, I actually saw your interview with Jackie Smith, and he mentioned that the other day. And the only member that it took us a while to settle in was our drummer, and that's we started off with a guy who was with us for I think maybe a year, Marvin, or a little under a year. Yeah. And he was replaced, and we couldn't get the right chemistry. So when we actually, I think they had 3 drummers. One was with the Q104 homegrown contest. We won that. And then there was another one in St. John, New Brunswick that we won their Battle of the Bands. and then we just kind of just stopped playing for a little while till we figured out what we want to do. And the Attic deal was on the table. We contacted Sean Kilbride. That was in '85, and we told him, it's like, we know who you are. We always liked the way you drummed. We'd love to to be part of the band. And at the time, Broken Toys just broke out in BC, so it was perfect timing for him. So he shipped all his drums home, got to a practice, and we did a day of rehearsal, and it was great. And that was the beginning of the whole thing.
I remember calling Sean out in BC and saying, "Hey, I hear your band's breaking up."
Boo-hoo.
Yeah, and he said, "How the hell did you hear that?" And I was like, "Well, I just heard." And he's like, "How would you like to come back to the Maritime to play for Haywire?" And he's like, "I'll call you back in a week." And so he called me back, and then it wasn't long after that we already had it. We got our deal and stuff. So he kind of walked right in. So, but we knew he could do it, So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I actually I had the pleasure of one of my best friends grew up right across the street from Sean. So we'd always be hanging out, and him and his brother always used to have the windows wide open, and they'd play What a Night by April Wine. And as soon as you heard the bell going, it was like, you can just go and watch a jam. It was so cool. I did want to mention one thing, though, Dave. You said, okay, so you won the homegrown. You won the Battle of the Bands at St. John. Like, you guys are starting to really start to tick off a lot of people from other provinces at this point because you're winning all their stuff. Yeah. Right?
No, it was awesome. Again, we went in, and like Marvin was saying, our focus at that time was for the two of us is learning how to write. And the thing that kind of set us apart from the Battle of the Bands in St. John, New Brunswick, was we did all original music. And we were the only band that actually took the stage, did, I think it was a half an hour of original music. And that was a comment that one of the judges made. It's like, if you guys got enough balls to come up here and play all your own music when all the other bands are playing the top songs of the day, right. It's like, they were really impressed with that. So that's what won that for us.
Yeah, and I think we did have Bad Bad Boy at that point. I think we did. We walked out and we ended with Bad Bad Boy. So we had like a serious song under our belt at that time. So
yeah.
Well, and you guys are still getting the spins on radio, because I was just driving in the car today, and 92.9, I'm kind of a channel surfer, and they played 2 or 3 of your songs today on the radio. So it's amazing how well they've stood up. But I did want to ask one question, because you talk about improving as songwriters. You got a voice like Paul McCausland. When we were growing up, it's like, if you could kind of sing and fog up a mirror, we take you, but you never found that singer.
Yeah.
And you guys had that singer. And was he always like that when you guys started, or how? Because I mean, Haywire is known for many things, but wow, Paul's got that voice,
Yeah, but Paul worked at it. When he, he kind of ran into a bit of trouble when he first went on the road, and he was kind of a throat singer when he first started singing. Right. And then when he kept blowing his voice every night, kind of realized, I need to rethink this. And so he went and did a bunch of work on it and stuff. Like, he worked hard on his voice, right? And eventually and the more we played on the road, the stronger and the stronger he got. So like, even today, his voice is still strong. He's still singing it. Just so.
I had mentioned to you, Dave, that I had the opportunity to play with Dion Macbeth, he's from Montague. And Paul started a 10 Mile House with them, and then Dion. And it's funny how I grew up knowing Sean a little bit, and my Sean Kilbride stories were eerily similar to me, Dion Macbeth's Haywire stories, because I guess he used to go and see you guys play, and I said, wow. I said, so if we ever meet them together, we got a lot of apologizing to do, because we were probably pretty embarrassing when we were growing up, because I used to torture Sean about everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Let's talk about the songs now, because I'm kind of curious how they were. You're playing 300 gigs a year. That's a lot.
So probably more. Probably more. We got home at Christmas. We used to get home at Christmas time.
So, okay, 2 things. So what kind of cover songs were you doing at the time? I'm kind of curious where your goals were, I guess, aspirations of a band, what style of music you were going after.
Go ahead, Dave.
Well, you know what, we were, at the first few years of the band, we were always, if we were going to do a song, we made it count. I mean, when the band first started, we were 3 guitar players. So we did a lot of early April Wine and oh my gosh, Led Zeppelin and just 3 guitar songs. We just did them.
Right.
And I remember when the Loverboys' Turn Me Loose hit the radio, we were like, okay, who knows how to play that chord? And I, stupid me puts them up in my hand. And it's like, okay, here's a keyboard. And, 3 years later, I'm the keyboard player and the guitar is in the closet, which is absolutely fine. And kind of everybody found their place. And with me, it kind of, a lot of the songs at the time were keyboard driven. So it only made sense that we needed to add that element to our sound. And,
Sure.
Marvin, I'm sorry, but he's the guitar player. It's just, that's how it's going to be. So, he was always a monster player. And when he says that he practiced after every gig, he really did. He locked himself in a bathroom with a pack of smokes. And that was pretty much it. It's like he played till friggin' he couldn't play anymore. And he built his strength up. And that's great. And that's, he knew the kind of guitar player he wanted to be. And that's what he knew he had to build that strength to be able to pull all that stuff off. And Paul, again, a lot of the singers at the time were a lot of, it was bands that had lead vocalists. So he just kind of gravitated to that over time. So when we wrote songs, it kind of fell into that mold.
Well, that was the second part of the question. So if that was kind of the stylistic path you were going towards, like the Lover Boy, but yet you had that the heavier rock influence, did writing come naturally to you?
Well, it kind of, actually, not really. Again, we had to work. When we were doing the bar band scene, we did kind of 3 sets as a band. The first set would be like the heavy rock stuff. We were doing all the rock stuff at the time, from everything from Scorpions to Rat to all that stuff in the 80s. That was the style. Then the mid set came and it was all U2 and all that stuff. Then third set came, was the greatest hits. We were like the ultimate party band, come into a club, and that's what we did, and just try to play the best music we could. And listen, playing all that stuff for all those years really taught you how good songs are put together. And so when we were trying to write our songs, it's like, well, gee, our songs are nowhere as good as those ones they're playing. We need to figure this out.
Right.
And that's kind of how it started. It was, playing for 3 or 4 years, every night almost for all that time. Talk about rock and roll school. Oh man, you can't help but get good. So.
And another thing too, to add to what Marvin's saying, Haywire, we didn't have a strong theory background. Everybody was pretty much self-taught. I mean, we had a couple of years maybe of piano lessons or a few guitar lessons here or there, school band, but there was no real music theory in the band. So the songs that we learned were songs that we liked. So we brought our background, what we loved, into our music. And like Marvin said, when you played, the top U2 songs of the day, or James Brown or Aerosmith, I mean, that's a song. So it's like, how do we write our songs that it can stand up to that? Because the last thing we want to do is Walk This Way and then come out with a real sucky song and everybody leaves the dance floor. It's like, you're only going to do that a few times. And it's like, yeah, we're not doing that song again.
that was Dave and my band that used to do those sucky songs. So Dave, you mentioned something interesting that a couple minutes back. So you said you were playing guitar and then all of a sudden, okay, Marvin's a guitar player. You're going to play keyboards and you're not that big on the theory part. So did you kind of just jump in and from scratch? Did you have a little bit of a background? Because to your point, there's a lot of keyboard-driven tunes in what you guys were doing.
Yeah, I'm mostly self-taught, but I took piano lessons for a year or two when I was, 12 or 13 years old. Really the basics. And I played drums in the school band for 6 years. So I have, I knew music. I understood the background of music, but as soon as I got into the keyboards, I'm basically self-taught there.
Right on.
And a lot of the songs that we ended up playing, it's all about parts. It wasn't like, here's a big piano song or here's a big organ song. It's like, here's a part that fits in this song. Can you do that? It's like, yeah, if I don't know it, I'll figure it out. It's, Marvin's the greatest guy to listen to a song on half speed on the record player and lick by lick by lick. It's like, between his ears and my ears, we were able to basically figure out all the parts because there was no tabs or internet back in those days. So
Sure.
Yeah, you can't watch the YouTube video and play how to play Dance Desire. You gotta learn. You gotta write it. So now when Sean Kilbride gets on the show, I'm gonna have to shut up a little bit more because he's a drummer and I'm not. But I play guitar and I did play keyboard, so I'm gonna ask you some gear questions if that's okay, guys.
Sure.
So you're talking 1981 or 82. You're a keyboard player at that point. Is that right, Dave? Or
Yeah. Well, I was a guitar player at the beginning. I had an old gold top Les Paul Deluxe, which I still have to this day. It's at my recording studio, and I pull it out once every 2 years, whether I need to or not.
Okay, but what were you using for when you first started playing keyboards then, or seriously start playing keyboards?
Yeah.
What were you using?
The first keyboards that I had were like a string machine by Yamaha SK10. I mean, that's going way back. That's 82, 83. And that was basically my string sound, and that's it. I had a very basic, I can't remember what the model was. It was Yamaha electric piano back in the day. It was more of a Rhodesy type of sound. They didn't sound like the sample players of today.
No.
And I just kept buying new gear. Like I bought a CP70 piano. I bought the JX3P by Roland. I bought a CS1. It was like a monophonic synthesizer. So if I saw something, it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. I pick it up if I thought that I could use it, if I needed it for what we were doing at the time. But my rig, I mean, I spent so much money on keyboard gear. It's freaking crazy over the years.
Yep.
But my rig now is actually on the device that I'm talking to you right now. It's on a laptop. I'm using MainStage.
Oh, cool.
And that dollar for dollar is the best value. I don't know, for keyboard players out there, MainStage for 50 some bucks, you buy the app, you download 50 gig worth of sounds, you program it, and you plug in any keyboard and you're off to the races. It works amazing.
Because that was a tricky part back then, when you're trying to do a cover band, and I think back, and I always think of a Cheap Chicks The Flame. And when that first breathy sound came out, that breathy sound's like, oh my God, my Yamaha DX7 is not going to make that sound. It's just, I can't get it. And it was the Korg M1 came out, and it changed everything, but I couldn't afford both, so I bought a stupid DX7. Anyhow, and I used to have the old cartridges you jam in there, like the Atari cartridges. But I mean, you had to emulate a piano, you had to emulate a horn section, you had to emulate strings, you had to emulate that breathy sound, and it was a lot of work. It really was. And I was probably like you, guitar player turned keyboard player. Right? My right hand was okay, left hand not so much.
Yeah.
But you're right, it was expensive to keep up that gear. That's kind of why I'm playing bass now.
And really, when Korg came out with the M1 and the JX3P was the Roland version, that kind of changed the tones that made things affordable.
Yeah.
And really, the M1 is the one that, I mean, you had the nice piano sound. You could really use that as your main board. But you're right, it was hard to, I remember when the DX7 first hit the stage, it was like, oh my gosh, we got to get one. I think I got one at Music Stop. It was like used for $2,500. It was a steal. So, I mean, not only did I buy one of those, I bought the module, the TX7. And the only thing better than a DX7 is two DX7s.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's why I had the DX5, and that's how Neil McKinnon sold me on the idea. It's like two DX7s. It's like, oh yeah, but this Korg M1 sounds good. No, you want two DX7s.
Yeah. Okay, I trust you.
Yeah, exactly. Marvin, how would you know? What were you using for gear back in the day, Marvin?
Oh, back in the day, I was using an old blown-up Fender Bassman and a 215 cabinet.
Nice.
And that, I mean, I blew that up 100 different ways. I had it repaired, and anyway, so a friend of ours used to work at Steve's in Montreal, and he got me a killer deal. This is back in the 80s. Yeah, got me a killer deal on a Marshall stack. Man, the 50-watt head and two cabinets. It looked absolutely beautiful and sounded like garbage. And I do a lead. It was like razor blades shooting out of the speakers. Oh God, it was the harshest thing I ever heard. Anyway, so I went to Music Stop at the time, and I went into their old gear section, like the rental gear stuff like that. And I dug through, and I found an old 45 watt Mark II Marshall ahead, and I found an old beat up was a high watt cabinet.
Yep.
And I plugged those two together, and I was dancing. I said, "Would you take this beautiful stack of Marshall?" And they gave me an even swap just like that. Of course they did. And I took this old gear, and I couldn't have been happier. And I played that amp for years.
And that was your sound. And you,
yeah,
I mean,
that 45 watt the 45 watt Mark II Marshall. That was just, everybody was like, "How are you getting that?" Even Kim Mitchell at the end, before I get rid of it, he was like, "Oh my," he'd have loved it. And it's just like, you know.
Well, and you guys, I remember you guys did that tour, and I remember because I saw it at the Metro Center. And a couple things I remember, there was a guy that I can remember this. I was 6 rows back from the front. Sean had the red Chinas because he sold them to me afterwards, which was kind of cool. For a good price too. But there was a guy behind me who watched your guys' whole set, and he was loaded drunk. He passed out for the entire Kim Mitchell set. The house lights come on. He goes, "Haywire." I kid you not, he did. But I just remember, I mean, I like Kim Mitchell, but you guys had such an energy in that show, and it was, I can't describe it. It wasn't pop. It was just an energy. That tour was probably a bit of a turning point for you guys in terms of launching into the next go, I would say.
That was a great tour for the band. We were big Kim Mitchell fans, so that was a really nice match for us because we were really happy to be there. And when we finished the set, we went out there. You know, Paul and Marvin, they'd throw their ball caps on and go out and watch every song. It was amazing. I mean, it was, you know, that was the album of the day that we were listening to. So it was a real gift to be on that tour. And we were treated great, really, on that whole tour. We got to meet a lot of the Labatt's Blue representatives that became lifelong friends. Even today, we still see them when we play.
Nice.
Yeah, that tour kind of spoiled us because it was like, because Kim was so good to us, and man, it's like just the whole thing went so well. The only thing I didn't like is apparently when you do the final show of the tour, the crew likes to play tricks on opening bands and stuff like that. And so I just remember being at a show, and there had been about probably 10 or 15,000 people out there, and our intro tape is going to come on, and so we're backstage, and all we hear, cranked right up, is "Wake me up before you go."
Yeah.
Hanging on. And about 15,000 people going, "Boo!"
Yeah.
And we had to walk out on that stage. Oh my! Anyway,
do you remember where that was? Where was that?
I don't know. That was kind of trial by fire. You know, apparently there was a big thing. Is a lot of the opening bands always kind of got a bit of a razz the last show and stuff. Anyway, so.
I think the other thing they did on that show too, you being a drummer too, Sean, you get a kick out of it, is they put powder, baby powder, all over the snare drum.
Oh yeah.
So Sean would be like, "What the frig is this?" I remember him just panicking. He's like, "Get this friggin' crap off of here." It was pretty funny.
Well, I mean, Sean's got a sense of humor to a point. Right? I know him pretty well. So yeah, I can just imagine how that went.
Yeah.
So that tour, that was right across. So I saw you in Halifax, but that was right across the country.
Yeah.
So John Dykeman we had on, and John was telling us about when he talked about that tour. The other interesting thing that he talked about that Dave and I were just like, wow. I don't know if he was trying to impress us, but he was your entire backline tech when he was out in the road with you guys. Is that correct? Or is he just feeding us the line?
No, he was the stage guy. That was his gig. Yeah.
Because he mentioned every time Marvin broke a string, it was the easiest guitar to restring because he explained how you put the strings in and you had the ball in the neck as opposed into, because you had the Floyd Rose. And John, I'm sitting there going, I break a snare drum myself and I'm panicking. How does one guy take care of all that? And then what happens if everybody has an issue at the same time?
No, he did. No, John, listen, we had him playing timbales on the side of the stage. He did like a lot of stuff, man. He was playing tambourines into microphones. He was
backup vocals.
And listen, and because my Marshall was so friggin' loud, what I had to do is I had to kind of turn it sideways, kind of away from the sound man. And so he stood right in front of my Marshall, wide open, with a set of earplugs in for that whole tour.
Amazing.
He even says this day, he's like, I think I lost 10% of my hearing on that.
Yeah.
Well, he was saying what a lot during the interview. What do you think of that, John? He'd be like, what? What?
Oh, yeah, okay.
So tell us about Japan. Now, what happens in this Japan thing? Where does that come into play?
Well, Japan, we represented Canada in the World Popular Song Festival. So we were the recording act representation for the country, and the Screaming Trees, or the Trees at the time, they were the non-recording act. So the two of us went over there, which was kind of fun. The night before that, though, this is kind of a little bit of trivia here, is we were filming our video for Black and Blue in Toronto. So we had 12 hours, and then we were on a plane to Japan. So get what you can. And, you know, thank God it was freezing and it rained all night. So that was good. So why'd the band do their video in the rain? Well, because all the gear was rented. That's the joke.
Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah.
So we flew to Japan, and it was pretty awesome. It was a long time to get there, and we tried to tell Paul, don't drink on the plane.
Yeah,
and then by the time we got to Vancouver, he was.
It's too late.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the Japan was more our first time in Japan. Actually, the only time I was in Japan really was more. It was more of a press tour. We did the Budokan for the song festival. Yeah, we did a few other shows and stuff like that. But most of it was like they locked us in a hotel room, and the press would just come in next every day for about 8 hours a day. There was a lot of magazines, a lot of press meetings, a lot of traveling around radio stations, and so that's really all I remember about Japan is just hotel rooms and radio stations, and you know, and the bar.
Yeah.
We were there for 2 weeks, like Marvin said. We did our few showcases, playing the Budokan for the festival, and I think we did a live TV show. And the rest, it was all, basically we had a day off. They said, okay, here you have the afternoon off, go shopping, and the rest of it was talking to the local media, because we had a company over there, Alpha Records, that had our album for Japan. So we were really trying to, you know, work with them and get to talk to everybody we possibly could.
And I've never had the pleasure of going there, but everybody that I've talked to that plays there says it's like they are the most dialed in music fans. They know who you are. They know your songs. They can't speak a lick of English, but they know every word that you're playing on stage. So, and then for you guys to hit Budokan, I mean, we all grew up listening to everybody, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that and I also remember Sean telling me that you guys were almost landlocked in the hotel because there was that many people trying to get at you and stuff. Do you remember that over there?
Yeah, it was. Again, I personally like Cheap Trick live at the Budokan is my album. Like, so to be there, it was just, that's all I could think about. Well, we're playing in the same place. This is the place. Okay. So I should have probably concentrated more on the show, maybe.
I had the blonde hair, so every time we came out of the elevators, it was like there was always a crowd in the lobby of the hotel. It was like, woo, you know, all the stuff when we walked in, and people following us around and all that stuff. But I remember one thing kind of freaked me out was when we came out to do that show at the Budokan for the World Popular Song Festival. I remember coming out and seeing all these Haywire banners draped.
Wow!
Because it's all like different balconies, and you could see all the Haywire things all draped. It was blew me away. So, you know.
Well, somebody actually posted a video of you guys playing over there on our page, and it was I don't know if it was live or if you guys were playing to a tape or whatever, but the crowd just looked incredible.
Yeah, no, that was live for sure.
Oh, wow.
That was live.
That was the Budokan. That was a live one. Okay,
yeah.
Okay, so
I know it was live because we were a little bit faster than the album. A little bit of nervous energy there. And then Sean commented weeks ago, he said, yeah, Paul missed the first line of that, to drop the needle. And I'm like, yeah, because he's like, where's my friggin' mic stand? And he's like walking around, and then finally gets it, but then he never turns back after that.
So you had already had one album out by then, or two?
We were on our second album.
Okay.
Yeah.
So take us through the discography then. So you have, like, what happens there? You get this deal with Attic, and what happens?
Well, basically, we produced our EP. That was part of the Battle of the Bands money. We went into the studio at Solar Studios there in Halifax, and we did I think it was a 5-song EP. 4 of them ended up on our first album with Attic, which was 1986, and that would have been Bad Bad Boy, Girl in Love, Crazy for You, and I think Out of My Head were the 4 off that EP. And basically we used those, and Sean just re-drummed on that album. That's what ended up happening. And then we finished out the album with the other songs. And then we essentially toured that album. We were on the road all the time for that. We came back home in the early fall, took a couple months off, just kind of did some different things. And then the record company said, well, you're in the studio in January, so get writing.
Make some magic.
Yeah, and I remember the pressure being on Marvin and I, because we had all our life to kind of take our time and figure out the first album. And, you know, there's Bad Boy. Oh, that's nice. There's that song. And you got lots of time to get your first album. And now we have a 3-month window to write our second album. So, you know, the pressure was on a little bit, because we're like, what if we got nothing else to say? It's like, let's just get together and start writing. Let's see what happens. And, you know,
I remember
again, we were, go ahead.
Yeah, I remember when we were on tour, we were on that tour. I remember playing Black and Blue for you guys. I remember walking in and going, got this great idea for a song. And I played for you guys, and you guys were like, yeah, that's okay. And I was like, what do you mean? It's great. It's great. And then remember we put it together like at different venues, and we started playing it, not live, but anyway, we started messing around. And so the record label was there one time. I said, you got to hear this new song I'm working. It's called Black and Blue. We worked on it. They're like, yeah, it's okay. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's great.
Poor Marvin. We're going to have a shit. Yeah. I know I have a hit. I know I have a hit.
Well, and about that second album, I have actually 2 questions, and hopefully I'm not geeking out here too much. But so Black and Blue is one. For vocal melodies, because you guys were the principals, right? You brought the stuff in. Who would have come up with the vocal melodies? Because the vocal melody in that song, to me, is for a pop rock song. It's almost beautiful in the verses, in the pre-chorus. Who would have come up with that?
Yours truly, there, Marvin.
Yeah, I'm the vocal melody guy of the band. I think that comes from being a lead guitar player, because I can hear all those notes.
Yep.
You know.
Well, 30 years, Marvin Birt. That was the first question I was asked. And here's the second one, and I'm definitely going to geek out. The thing about dances that I love is how the guitar and the bass are kind of playing the same thing, but a little bit different. So you're playing the riff, Ronnie's doing the line, but it's just a little, they're staggered, but they sound like one instrument. Who the heck comes up with that idea? Because that, to me, every time I hear it, I'm sitting there and I'm trying to hum them both at the same time, and you can't. But it's almost like you're playing 2 different songs that come together at the same time.
Actually, Dave wrote that bass line.
Ah!
Dave wrote that bass line on keyboards, and we had a beat going, he was playing that, and I was somewhere else in the room, and I said, hey, play that again. And he started doing that, and I just started jamming, and I just come up with that, with the digga playing against the riff he was doing. And that is where the song kind of started, and then kind of wrote a chorus that wasn't Dance Desire, and then we did more work on it. It kind of happened pretty quick.
That to me is just that tune, that whole thing to me is brilliant. It's almost like a call and answer that comes together, and I've always wondered. So 30 years of my life have finally been put together.
You never underestimate the keyboard player. Never underestimate the keyboard player.
Yeah. No, that's right.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
The other thing I need to tell you about that bass line, if he didn't call that out, we wouldn't be talking about it right now, because it was actually a nothing thing for me. I don't even know what I was doing. And he just said, keep doing that. Like, it was nothing special. When I was doing it, it was like, oh, okay. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just doing it. I wasn't even thinking about when I was doing it.
Well, it's one of those in that song are awesome too, Dave, because that's that whole breathy sound coming in, but you get the horn shots, and it's a really well written song. So I mean, they all were real written songs. I mean, for a bunch of Spud Islanders, you guys did pretty good.
I was just gonna say that from local.
Yeah, we thought anytime on the road they were just gonna walk in and they're gonna say, okay, guys, we know you're just a bunch of guys from Charlottetown, a bunch of Islanders. You just go home now.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So back to Dave McPherson's point. So all your albums musically are all quite different. So you got your first two, and then you got your third one, which is like, whoa, right? And I'd love to know kind of how you arrived at that. And then you have the fourth one that's kind of totally different again. So you do the first two, you have a lot of success. What did those first two sell, if you don't mind me asking?
Probably about 500,000 copies between the two of them, honestly. I think the first one is 300-some thousand, and the same with the second one. But we kind of lost count after about 500,000, but the two of them are about 500,000 between the two of them. So
you do those two, and then all of a sudden, okay, the third one happens.
Yeah.
And what was the whole because I mean, really, it's kind of, I remember when it came out, that's Haywire? What?
Yeah, I mean,
Haywire?
What the?
Well, I know when we wrote the first two albums, and we actually went back, starting to write the third album, and we were kind of trying to write the same type of stuff that we'd written before, the kind of the popper stuff, right? And it was kind of like there's a whole bunch of songs that the world's never heard that were kind of in between that record and the third one, right? Don't You Stand There, the third record. And some pretty good songs, but the biggest thing was no one told us we couldn't do that.
Fair enough.
And
Fair
we
enough.
we were all rock fans. That's where our heart really was. We liked rock stuff, and the world was changing at that point. There was a lot of like really heavy rock stuff that was really big on the charts, like a lot of Def Leppard and all that stuff and everything. And we thought, well, gee, we can take our rock geek a little further and do this, you know what I mean? So, and also too, that's kind of what came out when Dave and I were jamming and putting our stuff together. That's kind of what came out, so.
Well, and I mean, I remember hearing Short End of a Wishbone, and I'm going like, Sean Kilbride channeled his very best Alex Van Halen there for that. I mean, it's just that double kick shuffle, right? And I mean, the whole thing was just like, I just remember hearing it going like, wow, like it was so cool. So the album comes out, and what type of reception did it get? Because you guys went away to record that. Guys just didn't do it here in the backyard, right?
No, we went to Norway. We were in Norway, Trondheim, Norway, with a producer over there for 4 months, and we were in the studio every day for 4 months. It was pretty awesome, actually. A beautiful spot and beautiful studio, and like Marvin said, we did the album we wanted to do, and I think that was what that album represented. It was, Marvin's background everybody liked rock music. That was where our hearts were. And when we were doing this, I mean, Paul had the pipes to do it. Marvin can definitely do the guitar work. It's like, let's just do it.
Right on.
But the songs still, followed our kind of our formula for songwriting. Like they all had like, solid choruses. They were all songs, you know what I mean? So, that still was, we were still there. We were still writing the same thing they were writing before. It was just kind of like, we just kind of made the guitar a bit more forward, and we were kind of sorry that we made the song so high for Paul to sing.
Yeah, because you got to do it live, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Except for that part, yeah, exactly.
And you guys are over there for 4 months. Are you getting calls daily from your record company? Is it done yet? Is it done yet? Is it done yet? Because I mean, that's 4 months anywhere is a long period of time.
They kind of sent over the A&R guy around month 3, and he was like, "This, you're not done yet."
Yeah.
And it was basically to the point where we got to wrap this up and finish this up. This is not like an open checkbook here, so we need to finish this up. Right. So after 4 months, we came back and we actually did a little bit of, I think, some extra mixing and some tweaking in Toronto, and then the album was released.
Let me ask you, those guys. I mean, at this stage, though, I mean, you're in album 3. You're kind of, and it's like in any other band, you kind of put your first 2 albums out. Some might consider kind of bubblegum, some might consider this, but you develop a following. Now you've kind of arrived, I would think, in your mind that you can do the shit you want to do. So, like, what's going on in your headspace then at this point in your career?
I think it's mostly that. It's like, this is what we want to do. It's like, we've been doing this a long time. We've been on the road, 10 years and playing an awful lot in that 10-year period, and it's like, if we're not doing music that we want to do, and the band needs to always evolve. That was always our main thing. It's like, we can't do what we did last time or we're done. We need to keep changing it. We need to keep having something different and exciting to offer. You know what I mean? And hopefully the people that, they came along with the ride. Like, I remember a few years ago, somebody says, "Oh, I heard your new single on the radio." I'm like, "What song is that?" And it's like, "Wishbone, Short End of Wishbone." I'm like, "Okay, that's great." It just they were playing Operator Central for the longest time, and they just decided to play Wishbone, randomly. So it's like, that's great. If you think that's our new single, then that's fantastic. But you know what? They love the song, so it's again, it was just something that we were just what we were into at the time. And like Marvin said, when we were writing, it's not like we were trying to write something. It was like, let's just take any barriers down and let's see what comes out. And that came out. I mean,
wow.
I don't know if you listened to the song Strange One on that album.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, where the frig did that come from? Like, we were writing that song. That was a completely different song. And on the fade, Marvin, we start doing this riff, and Marvin's like, we got to do the whole song. That's the song is in that fade. So we rewrote the whole song around the fade of that song, and that became Strange One.
Yeah.
I wore that album out, boys. I can't even, I've been looking for the CD, so when I'm driving around in my truck, I can play it. But yeah, no, I wore that album out. Sorry, Marvin, I interrupted. You were going to say?
I was going to say that, that album took a long time to record. We kind of, I don't know if Bjorn, the guy over in Norway, was really the right fit for that record, but he did a great job and an engineer and stuff like that and everything. But there was always a lot of discussion about what we were recording. Anyway, so and there was a lot of political shit about how the recording process went for that album, but that's why it took so long. It wasn't, we walked in there with all those songs already written. All we had to do was record them, but it ended up taking that long because it just, crap in the studio, you know what I mean? So,
well, there'd be a communication barrier too, I'm sure, right?
Well,
no, it's just that he had a much different way of recording than we were used to, like, completely different. So anyway, that's why it took so long anyway. So
when you guys used to record that, was it a lot of live off the floor and then overdubs, or did you guys do it separately, or how did you typically record before that?
I think before that, it was just what you said. It was a lot of playing together and grabbing the bed tracks and then doing the overdubs. Where with this album, with the third album, we kind of thought that was happening, and we kind of did our pre-production like, this is it. And then we scrapped all that, and then we started building from scratch, and it was like, oh, nothing we just did matters. It's like, now let's do it the real way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember that first album. I mean, I used, because 15, 16 years old, terrified of a click track. And I remember talking to Sean, did you use a click track? How'd you do this? And I mean, and it got to the point where I'm sure he was just annoyed with me, but Sean, always so gracious. And I do remember him telling me that he actually pretty much went in and played along to what you guys had recorded to get the drums for that album. There was drum machine on that album too, was there not, on one of the tunes?
Which album?
First one.
No, I don't think so.
No? Because the only reason I ask, I remember, and I'm geeking out here, but you guys did a song at the concert, and I remember the tunes are going, the drums are going, Sean's like twirling his sticks, he's not even hitting anything, and then he cracked into it. And might have been Three Wishes. Did you guys do that live?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that was a drum machine beat in that, and then he plays along with that.
I'll give you my address where you can get that royalty check due, Dave, for that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
So you do that, and then the fourth album comes out. And the thing I remember with the fourth album, you guys did a Canada Day show, I think, when that album came out. And I watched it at the Royal Hotel in Sydney because I was playing Smooth Hermans, and I remember hungover as crap watching you guys play there. But that album comes out, and then again, another kind of musical shift.
Well, I think a lot of people describe that album, Get Off, as the album that should have been before Nut House. Don't Just Stand There in Nut House. That's the album that maybe we should have made as our stepping stone, because it was kind of a little bit of the heavy stuff with All Talk, No Action and a couple of songs like that. But it still had the buzz, and it was a better transition album than, Nut House. It's like, bipolar at its finest. Let's just go way over here and then zip back over here. Anyway, it was kind of exciting for the ride. Anyway, for most of the listeners.
Yeah, but I remember like, because we come home after touring Nut House, and you and I kind of got together to start writing, and songs just fell out everywhere. There were just songs galore. I mean, we couldn't believe it. Look at that idea and that idea. Like all these ideas were just popping out everywhere. Yeah. And so that album came together quite quickly, and I reckon it was like, what, you're ready already? You got an album already? And it's like, yeah, it's like, and so that album, we kind of just, these are the songs we wrote that we like.
Right.
We like all these songs. So we
and
don't
you're
really
going to be your own worst critic. Let's be honest. You're going to be, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. We've only got all we have to go by is our own compass, and that's all we had. We couldn't write anything we didn't like because we wouldn't know what that meant. So.
Right.
Well, so Marvin, and both of you guys as songwriters, I mean, you bring a tune in. Like, were you guys ever in the position where somebody said, I want to change this, I don't like that, where somebody picked your song apart and you were sitting there kind of arms folded going, no, like, was it ever like that for you guys, or were you just kind of in a groove enough that they trusted you guys to do what you were doing?
That happened early on between Marvin and I. Like, for our first album, before our first album, Marvin wrote a couple songs, I wrote a couple songs, and then we would try to introduce them to each other. What do you think of this idea? And then he'd say something and I get all offended and then wouldn't talk for 2 weeks. So it's like, once we kind of got over that initial thing, the relationship got very good as writers, because Marvin would be like, oh, I don't like that. And it's like, okay, let's move on. Let's not waste any more time. It became very professional after that. I remember at very first, it takes a while because it's such a personal thing, when you're writing a song, it's like, oh my, first of all, you're scared. And then you bring it forward, and then he doesn't like it, and now you're like, I'm quitting the band. I want to get a real job. I don't want to do this anymore.
It's like your baby, though. It's like, don't worry what they say. Yeah. Don't listen to what they say, honey. Don't you worry about a thing. Yeah, I get it.
But some babies are ugly. They just are.
Yeah. That's right. But they turn into beautiful, beautiful people at some point.
Exactly. You just got to be patient with them.
So Marvin, how do you take that? So, because obviously, in my experience, guitar players can tend to be a little more possessive of their riffs and a little more less feedbacky. So how would you take, like, and again, would you guys work all that stuff out and then your producer goes, no? Because there's tons of stories of producers coming in and just chopping the crap out of songs, right? Were you guys ever having to deal with that?
We had a strategy.
Yeah, okay.
And that we kind of
a little bit there, brother.
And all those songs alone. Anyway, so and that kind of worked, So why is my phone saying low battery? It's like,
oh, that what it is?
You're almost
I'm gonna try something too. I'm gonna try plugging in my Ethernet cord just for fun, so we get a little bit better internet here.
So while Dave's doing that and all this is going on, because I had a guitar player friend of mine that wanted me to ask this, Marvin, of you.
Okay.
So you guys are playing. So at some point, he says, ask Marvin if he was socially aware. You guys are having success and you're touring and all that. You have to be socially aware of the fact that you're starting to be quite an influence on a lot of young bucks in not only Atlantic Canada, but across our country. I remember guys going, I want the Marvin Birt sound. I want the Marvin Birt this, the Marvin. You had to know that was going on, right?
Actually, we were kind of in our little bubble.
It's a good thing. Yeah, Dave, it's a good thing he cut out there, right?
I didn't hear anything he just said. Did you hear him?
I did.
Suddenly Mr. Roboto from Six was playing. That's what I heard.
I know. I can't hear anything.
I believe he said that you guys were kind of in your own little bubble and you really weren't picking up on a lot of that stuff that was taking place, I think is what he said.
Yeah, I beg to differ. I remember being on stage and there'd be about 5 or 6 guys right in front of Marvin watching every note he played. And that was consistently right across the country because they couldn't believe what he was friggin' doing for 2 hours.
When we do this,
So-
when we do this, when we take a 10-minute break, if you guys have more time, we'll let Marvin get his because right now he looks like he's going really, really slow.
He's like
And
the
we'll
$6
come back. Is
million
that okay?
man.
Or-
Yeah, maybe reboot Marvin, and then we'll just kind of connect again.
There he is. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, we'll take a quick break and come right back
Okay,
Sounds
see you in a few, boys.
with Haywire. Da, 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 da.
Barstools